told us that are healthy for us, and they're not. They're killing us slowly. But does it, because a murder or a series of genocides is taking place in slow motion, does that mean it's not happening? Because I honestly feel like I'm in the middle of an enormous car crash that is all happening in slow motion, and there's millions of vehicles involved. And they're all heading towards the same place. It's head-on collision, everybody all at the same time. Everything's going to implode if it continues. And yet, some people in the cars are pulled up and parked. And the people behind them, they're bumping in and say, why don't you let me pass? I don't go any further than this. Certain death is that way. This way, self-determination, independence, sovereignty of the people, an end to centralised government, an end to all the lies and deception, because who in this room does not have this experience, generally in life, wherever you are, whatever people you're surrounded with, in a moment of emergency, let's say when a kid steps out into the road or something like that, the reaction of people is to get them, is to do the right thing. Or, you know, if you see someone in the street who's clearly starving and on the verge of death, most people, not most people in London where I lived for 12 years, but that's a different story, most people in most places, their heart goes out to them. They think, well, that could be me, couldn't it? There's so many videos of young people, you know, they say that they're buying them food. As they know, well, you know, if I was as desperate as you, I'd be tempted to buy to pay for drugs, which might kill me anyway. You know, so they're giving them food. People are waking up to the fact that the heart of the problem is understanding that the people who are running your lives and think that you are lower than the shit on the bottom of their shoe and they can wipe you out in an instant if they so choose. They care nothing for you. They never will. They never have. And they don't want your children to have a life that doesn't involve enslavement and fraudulent debt. And death for the majority. And death for all who do not comply with the tyranny. That's the choice. That really is the choice. But it is a choice. It is. We've only got until they stop, if they get that far, until they start locking people up for speaking out. Cameron, as you know, is attempting to criminalise free speech. Hillary Clinton is running on getting rid of free speech. That's to blame for everything, just like the people having the guns in America. But I'm telling you, since they tried to outlaw guns in America, the sale of guns has increased dramatically. There are over 200 million unaccounted for weapons that have been purchased in America alone, and they're not being purchased by the government, they're being purchased by people who are waking up. Say, I'm going to protect yourself. We don't have that protection here. Because you see, I don't need a gun, I don't have a gun, I'm not trying to get a gun, but if I did have a gun, I would have something that was a last resort to protect my family with, and myself. But because they've made that, just having a gun without one of their licenses, and they're never going to give those licenses to the people, that means that we have to do it with our backs against the wall, using our ingenuity, our courage, and our guile. However, we can do it. There's no doubt we can do it. Our ancestors have done it. It's in our genes. It's in our DNA. We are the people who can put an end to this tyranny. We are. All of us, individually, by leading by example, every one of us, by not saying, well, you know, I've got all these things which I have to keep paying, to just say, no, I'm not going to comply anymore. There's more of us than them, and there always will be, unless they get their way and wipe us out. It's the reason they want to wipe us out. It just takes the realization of a certain number, I don't know how many, but it's a small percentage of any community to wake up and take action. Take action. To show people that somehow, when you stand up and have the courage to say, I'm not going to take this anymore, the game changes. It changes. And if you tell everyone you know that there is something they can do, and they've just got to do that, their bit, whatever that is, then that will carry on spreading exponentially. And just know that if you have anybody trying to steal your property from you, posing as the government, or agents of the government, or agents of the banks, or bailiffs, who are just licensed pirates, when anyone does that now, unlike 2009, 2010, 2011, unlike then, there is somebody who will put the word out on Facebook or other social media, who will get together a response team, and they're called Response UK, and there's other groups like them. Don't rule any of them out, because we've all got to unite on the things that we hold in common, on our on all of the mutual issues that we can so easily agree on. That's why I don't want to focus on any of the things that we can argue about all night, just the things that we can agree on. Is anybody sitting here thinking, well, I like this world the way it is? Anybody?
No.
I've never had any group of people say it's not that we have to reinvent the wheel, it's that we have to realize where we are. And where we are is, and I wish this wasn't the case, we are witnessing the most aggressive form of corporatism, which is overt fascism, that has ever been known in the history of mankind. We are witnessing it, and some of us are even party to it, whether we know it or not. And that is the position that we're in. Now, how many of us have been involved in conversations or thought to themselves, what would I have done if I suddenly realised I was living in Berlin in 1936 and they started slaughtering people around me, people started disappearing, everyone who spoke out? What would I do? Would I comply and go along with it and then end up being an accessory to it? Or would I stand up and do something and risk my own life? Well, we're not at that point where anyone who speaks up is going to be put up against the wall. But I wouldn't write it off as a possibility, because they've already decreed that everybody who criticises the government is a terrorist. They've already decreed it. Doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it can be enforced, because quite frankly, if the German police put down their weapons 2 years ago at a mass demonstration in Germany that they were ordered to suppress, they put down their weapons and they marched with the people. If the German police can do that, any police force can do it. And I'm putting out an appeal in the near future in the form of a podcast, which will be to everybody serving in the armed forces under false oaths. Everyone serving in the so-called police force who are just nothing more than glorified collection agents for the crown now. They got no power of discretion to do anything that they haven't been ordered to do. We got no protection anymore. So we have to protect ourselves. There's no other way. So just consider how you are going to feel if you do nothing. And I know some of you are already doing things, but I couldn't live with the thought that my daughter, when she's 25, with a millstone round her neck from going to university and learning shite that she never wanted to learn, to get a piece of paper to qualify for a job that she's been ordered to do by the state, and she's got no choice, and then saying, Dad, I'm 25, I'm still living with my parents, and my life is not my own. You put out all that information about what was going on, and then you stopped. You didn't do anything anymore. You stopped. Why did you stop? I can't live with that. Because I knew enough to do whatever I can every day, and damn the consequences. Fuck that. I'd much rather my daughter, in the end, no matter what happens to me, looks back and says, you know what? My dad had a crack. He really had a crack of getting people to think for themselves. Not trying to tell them what to do, but to get them to think and act for themselves. And not comply with what he viewed as tyranny, and it absolutely was. I'd much rather that than her point the finger at me and say, you're culpable.